Thank you so much for joining a wonderful virtual Fireside session today. The world is going through a difficult times right now because we were not ready. And that is the reason a lot of people in the world are giving sacrifices. A lot of people are giving their jobs away. A lot of businesses are suffering. And the same way, a lot of people are even giving their life because we were not ready. There'll be also a new life right after COVID. That would also be a new life that also require our new changes in life. So if we're not ready today, we might give sacrifices in that life as well. Might not be in the form of giving our life, but might be in the form of quality of life, in the form of giving away jobs, might be in the form of losing some business. So what we are doing today, we are basically having a wonderful conversation as an actionable dialogue so that we help you to be future ready. Digital transformation, digital readiness was very important yesterday, today, and I think is far more important for tomorrow. If we are ready today, I think we'll be better after the life after COVID. So we are planning a wonderful fireside chat, and for that, let me give uh, a quick intro how this will be different webinar. So before that, I will quickly give what kind of webinars happening where people are facing certain challenges. First of all, a lot of information, people are complaining about it. So that is not fair with the audience. Secondly, 4 out of 5 people are disengaged. So they are using mobiles, they're using different mediums because they're sitting at home. So they're not part of those webinars, those different virtual summits. And last but not the least, imagine if we forget 10%, 90% of the information after 7 days of time, it will be a big disaster. It will be a big painful for the people because you will not be able to take those actions which you were supposed to take. So today, this actionable dialogue is different because all of the challenges which I just mentioned, they are your subconscious challenges. So today, we'll be focusing together with our panelists to help you to memorize the information, to help you to take certain actions which are beneficial for you. Our aim today is to bring amazing people from the industry to help you to get future ready, who help you not to take the information as a memory only, but to take certain action which help you to get a better job, better business, and better quality of life tomorrow. So with that, please join me and welcome Mr. Haroon Khan, who is CEO, head of GCC TeraData Pakistan. Welcome, Haroon. Thank you so much for joining us today. And same time, I welcome Ghazanfar Ali, who is a very senior IT leader, country general manager, Pakistan and Afghanistan for IBM. Thank you so much, Ghazanfar, for joining us today. So with that, I'll hand over the conversation in the form of dialogue to my amazing panelists, amazing people to start with and continue that. Over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Ali, for the introductions and yeah, and welcome to all our participants who are online attending this Fireside chat. It's a, these are unprecedented times, and I think within these unprecedented times, we need to have some unprecedented actions. And these kind of talks actually help build the context and help to build the knowledge base which will help us in move through this through these times. None of us is an expert in this, but all of us can share our views, our opinions, our insights that we have based on the positions that we enjoy in and the industry in which we work in. So yeah, I look forward to having a great session, and it will be nice to have a chat with Ghazanfar.
Thank you, Haroon. So first of all, I would like to start with the prayers that everybody joining today is safe, and with the prayer of safety and health for you and your dear ones and the organization where you work, the extended family, everybody. These are testing times. Obviously, it's a challenging time for everyone. it's changing by the minute. And I think the one thing which we all need to get out of this is the humbleness. The Mother Nature, the God has told us that no matter how big we think we are, there are always things bigger than us which can halt the whole system. And the second thing is compassion, because these times require a lot of compassion within the organization, within the family, and everywhere. So I'm happy to be on the call on today's discussion. So thank you, Ali, for inviting us, and looking forward for the whole conversation.
Great, yes, and I think you made some really great points. Humbleness and compassion. I think that's the key, because we need to understand that the businesses will not run the way they were run. Everybody of us is scared. Everybody is, challenged. Everybody thinks about moving out, touching somebody, interacting with others. The challenges arise. Now, we need to understand, based on the topic that we've been given, which is digitization post-COVID. I think the first thing that I would like to share some facts around digitization, and those are, digitization has been the digital transformation has been in progress for the last couple of decades. But the intensity of their transformation has increased over the last 5 to 7 years, given the fact that a lot of IoT-based things are coming in. There's a lot of analytics that is coming in. There's a lot of data and data-driven technology that are coming in. So all of that has accelerated the life cycle of digital transformation. 2018-19, approximately $1.3 trillion were spent by companies on digital transformation. Now, that gives us an indication of the nature that this transformation requires, because this requires fundamental transformation from within the organization, the culture, the processes, right from end to end, and then only truly can you call an organization a digitally enabled organization. However, out of that 1.3 trillion, this is very interesting to know, 900 billion worth of projects were not successful. And if you dig down into the reasons, the majority have one key reason. Among many others, there's one key reason, and that is the culture. They haven't been able to foster the culture of transformation, the culture of adopting technologies, and understanding the true sense of what digital transformation means. So I think I'll ask Ghazanfar to add up a few things around what is digitization, what is digital transformation that we see as consulting organizations.
Yeah, I think we need to look into digital transformation as an overall shift in all different industries and ecosystems, which is enabled by a lot of technology. What we have seen since 2007, before 2007, world connectivity improved, and because world connectivity improved, things started shaping up. The things which were not relevant earlier started becoming relevant. People started creating new experiences, and then you see the rise of all these big organizations called Facebooks, Googles. These were the internet giants which came in. Now, what happened that those internet giants, they started growing very fast. They started growing very big as well. And if you see Amazons of the world or Googles of the world and all those guys, what they really pinned their journey was around scope and speed of the things that they do, right? So they enhanced the scope. So they started from one industry to second industry to third industry to fourth industry, and started creating new experiences across all the different industries. And they did it at a very, very, very fast speed. On the other side, traditional businesses were struggling with the old model, because what happens in normal traditional businesses, by spending too much time in certain industry and certain way of life, you become a prisoner to your own thinking. So they were moving slow, and so these big giants with a lot of money, with a lot of connectivity, a lot of customers, and the third thing where they were focusing was the scale, or going to the billion customers and stuff like this. They created a momentum from that side. The other momentum was created by all the startups. Startups started coming up with new ideas based on digital means, and they started throwing the new things. So we saw the rise of internet giants from one side. We saw the rise of startups coming from the other side, and it took some time for the enterprises to wake up and try to understand that, oh my God, we are in trouble. So if you see certain industries, for example, if you see hospitality industry or automobile industry, I mean, we are still seeing the wave one, which is the consumption pattern is being digitized through Ubers and Airbnbs of the world. The bigger thing is coming in the next wave, where the software, the car will become software, and that's you see already happening with the Teslas of the world and Google investing in autonomous cars, and then other people coming in. So what happened that the pressure from both side actually sandwiched the traditional enterprise in the middle. Initially, they were late to respond. They were in denial, like we all old businesses are. We were not pushing it through. But what we saw from last year, that these businesses started coming back with the response. One thing which traditional industry always had, they had long-term customer relationships, they had trust, they had regulatory support, and all those things. So they started responding back, and so they are pinning their plan on the same things which are happening either in the internet giant side or they're happening at the startup side, which means they are pinning their plan on customer experience. So since both startups and the internet giants are very focused on customer experience, they are going deep with data. If you see the success behind these big companies is that they have better data, more data, and they invest more on data. They are coming up with new models of relooking into or reimagining the process. That's why the conversation shifted from innovation to reinvention, where how can you have an old invention reimagined and then put into your system so that you can supply some service or product or something like that, something better. So they are doing this in the same way based on their own reality. So it's coming back to experience, data, business process re-engineering through design thinking, and then the cloud technologies, which are enabling this scale and speed at the same time, because nobody has time to bring all these technologies together, integrate, and then scale them up. So in my opinion, we are in this phase right now, and this COVID has just accelerated that thing.
Absolutely. I think you've put that foundation, which was actually is the beginning of our conversation. Now, all these companies, because of what Ghazanfar mentioned, were riding that wave or trying to ride that wave. Of course, the Amazons and the Googles and the startups were ahead of the curve in terms of their learning experiences, but all the rest of the companies were jumping onto that wave and trying to make themselves, and some of were actually thinking. So data says that 70% of the companies had some kind of a transformation going on, and 30% of the companies had not even thought about, because they could survive in this challenging environment as well. Then COVID happened. And because of COVID, this is, somebody in January, I mean, at least I wouldn't have thought about me having a full-time work from home and striving to go and get a haircut. I mean, lucky you, Ghazanfar, but
I don't know.
so you couldn't have thought about. Now, this is a challenge we face at individual level. What we'll do is we'll talk about the challenges that these organizations are facing now on an accelerated basis. So what kind of challenges are those? So let's start off. For example, companies, employees. I mean, everybody needs to work from home. So our relationship with the companies have become more virtual. Our relationship with our families and friends have started to become virtual. Somebody called this thing as telecommuting. So I think that's a very wonderful term that's being used. Forbes, I think, used the word telecommuting. So that's becoming virtual. Our demand for services, our demand for products is now coming on demand, which means that I have to order stuff from the bakery. I have to order stuff from from the shops. They need to be able to deliver it. But before they need to be able to deliver, the e-commerce part of things need to be mature enough. Previously, what used to happen was I used to do a lot of research physically and then look for best rates online for that particular product. But now I need to do that research online, which means that the e-commerce site that exists, they need to provide and give me an experience of exploring that product in a way that I feel comfortable in making a choice. And then certain agreements of post-sale services, delivery warranties, and then delivery mechanisms, inter-country delivery mechanisms within the cities and even in Pakistan, all of that is now challenged. So the challenges are increasing and they are spurring from what COVID has led us. You want to add something on the challenge part?
Yeah, I think what has happened, and I call it that we were all talking about disruption, and the Mother Nature came in with the mother of all disruption, right? And this mother of all disruption is a very classic one, because when we say that in disruption, what happens is that some of the business model will become relevant, some of the business model will become irrelevant, some of the businesses will go out of the business for good. I mean, because what we are seeing increasingly is that post-COVID, we will not return to old normal. I mean, even if you see, so we have a typical response. So the first response is how to stop the pandemic, which is right now all the countries are in, which is lockdown situation, work from home and stuff like this. Now, even in this, you see all the trends which you are coming, you're saying that, stores will not open, people will not come to the real estate, all these things will happen. Then the second response will be, because we don't have the vaccine, so it will be a long time before we get back to a normal life. I mean, what we learn from the history, last example, 1918, 1920, it took 2 years to go back to the social, normal social practices, right? So it takes time to go back to normal. In this time, we will realize many things. So some business models which were relevant will go away. Some of the people who were sitting in the comfort that digital is not hitting us will wake up and see that, okay, if I don't have a digital, and that's what we are seeing right now. If we have not invested digital enough, probably we will not be able to reach our customers, because our customers are not coming out to physical locations. But then there is an opportunity of a lot of business models which will evolve. Similarly, the operating models will change. I mean, few things which will be, so for example, most of the companies, most of the economies were having just-in-time inventory, very efficient operating model, right? Now, in a situation like COVID, where global supply chain is disrupted, now you're in a fix. Similarly, interdependence of economies on raw materials and those kind of things. So all these things are telling you that you have to step back and see that if world stops like this, in a disruption like this, then how would you survive? So how will you have enough oil capacity? Can you keep it? Can you store it? If oil is at -1, can you buy it and store it for things like those, right? Can you supply servers from one location to other? So initially, what I see is, there is, everybody has to ask this question. Everybody has to ask this question, that am I relevant anymore? And is my business model and operating model relevant anymore, or do I need to make adjustments?
And it would be, this whole challenge would be faced more in certain industries as compared to the rest. For example, you mentioned yourself the supply chain part of things, which is more concerned with the manufacturing, or retail businesses, or healthcare sector, or we've seen a lot of disruption within our own automotive and our airline industry. So some industries would be hardly more effective than the rest. But I like the point that you made, Ghazanfar, that we have to start thinking differently. And that's the foundation of what kind of a change that we want to look at. We have to accept the fact that the new norm is there, has to be there. You can't work traditionally. So that's the foundation, I think, of the change that we're talking about. Can you elaborate, or what do you see in Pakistan, especially globally and also in Pakistan, the key industries that where we will see a lot of shift in from a transformational perspective, digital transformation perspective, and where you see a lot of startups should be focusing on?
I think first thing first is it's very important for all the businesses to understand how the overall system works, right? So once you understand the overall system, then you understand your own relevance in the whole game. So it's very basic, right? We have a primary economy which is related to production of agriculture, raw materials, and stuff like this. There will be impact of social distancing and all those things. Productivity will go down for a little bit of a time, but those sectors are relevantly, they will come back very quickly, and they will improve things in terms of productivity. Then we have the secondary, which is production. Now production is connected to global demand, local demand, consumption, and all those things. So there will be medium, depending on what kind of recession we get into, whether it's V, W, L, whatever the shape would be, there will be impact on those things. But our 60%, more than 55% area is services. And the services is the area where a lot of transformation will happen, right? So first of all, let's take the example of retail itself, right? There will be permanent shifts in retail behaviors, right? So there will be shift in consumer behavior. Consumer would want to go more digital on the low end side. Probably even if these restrictions go away and government goes out of the smart lockdown or whatever the terminology is, as long as there is a threat of me catching COVID as a consumer and there is no vaccine, I will be very careful in terms of stepping out and buying something physically. So that is going to hit retail industry. That is going to hit services industry, where a lot of interactions are right now happening on physical channels, including shops, including franchises, including big retail shops, right? It will give. The second thing is, once this thing happens, then who will cash in? The brands that will cash in will be the brands who have the best loyalty, because those are the people. So if I have to trust that, okay, I can't step out, I have to buy something, I will not buy anything. I will try to go towards a brand which I know and I have an experience and I'm loyal to, right? So that's the second shift which will come in the customer behavior, right? The third thing is, even if I come to store, right? So first of all, there are areas in retail itself or services itself where there will be mass social avoidance. So big events, participations, concerts, this and that will continue to suffer for a longer term till we get over. Then even if I come to a physical space, I want you to I expect from you that you will take care of me in terms of my exposure to the disease, right? So those kind of costs will come in. So there will be a significant shift in consumer behavior. Then the second thing which will happen is the change in the consumption priorities. So the things which were relevant yesterday are probably not relevant for me today. I mean, today if I'm not social, probably I will not spend more on the garments. Probably I'll spend something on something very basic, right? So
absolutely.
So these are the things which are coming out very clearly, and these will be relevant to us. This is not something which will happen in the United States and other industries, in other economies. So we have to bring this down to our level. Then, so services sector is the biggest one, where the impact will be. And I think the services sector, people should look into this whole phenomena more closely, invest more on data, try to understand their customer more, and see how the patterns are changing. And then the other piece which comes in is the government sector, right? I mean, look at our response to the whole COVID thing, and you will find obvious clear areas where things will change, right? I mean, what we are hearing from the global experience is that now healthcare has to be exclusive. So your first battle is to stop patient zero, which is the first guy who is coming from Iran and bringing the disease to Pakistan. And the second battle is to stop patient 31, the guy who infected 1,600 people in South Korea after they stopped everything on 30th. Or, look at the Singapore experience. I mean, Singapore, was doing fine, and then they found out that they left a lot of bottom of the pyramid people out, and now it's coming back and spreading it. So healthcare has to be inclusive. Your financial inclusion, the biggest hit we got as Pakistan is the financial inclusion, because our financial inclusion number was bad. And today you see BISP was a program which was running digital, and now we have decided that since we don't have the right financial inclusion, we don't have the credible data, so we have to go back from digital to physical, which has a higher risk of spreading the disease. So as a government needs to do a lot of things. Financial inclusion is one, inclusive healthcare is the other. All the changes which has happened in education, that's a big opportunity to go and scale the education up to the level where things can change significantly. And then we can go on and on, but I think we have to look into these four bigger areas: the production industry, the primary industry, the services industry, and the public sector.
Exactly. I think these three or four industries that you talked about are the ones that have a major impact across masses. So now the interesting thing to, and we'll talk about it in the later session, how do these industries cope up with it? What exactly do they need to do in order to come out of this challenge that they're facing and transform to the needs? And the interesting thing is, all of these changes are not being pushed, by the way, not being pushed by technology giants. These are changes that are in demand by the consumers now. So, traditionally what we've seen was that, companies coming in and creating a demand for either a service or a product. But this time around, this is driven by the people. As a result of an incident, people have started to change their behavior. So the change in the behavior has resulted in that demand creation. And for companies to be successful and to thrive, they have to. The governments have to attend to this change. Otherwise, there will be a lot of chaos, if I'm talking about the government, and there will be a lot of revenue loss for the companies if they don't adapt to those consumer behaviors. Before we move on, I think let's take up a few questions from the audience here. I see a long list of questions.
Yes.
So this is a question by Abdul Mateen Khan, and since it's at the top, I'm going to read it first. Now, when we say the disruption of digitization is in full swing, how do you see people coping up with the change, and how the organizations and HR should be responding to act as a catalyst in making people more adaptable to the change? I think what Ghazanfar mentioned in the beginning, compassion and humility. I think organizations need to adapt that, and HR and their policies need to be reflective of that compassion and that humility. And managers and leaders, they need to build it in their day-to-day conversations, need to have that as an embedded item. So the organizational transformation is going to be a big challenge. In what sense? First, we have always talked about organizations having a need to eliminate silos. The need now is more. You can no longer exist in organizations where work is being done in silos and work is being done virtual. So I think that's one of the key, and HR needs to support in getting that done. And number two, organizations need to create an environment where collaboration is fostered through collaboration tools, and behaviors of the leaders are the one that is going to make it directional in achieving that objective.
Yeah. So, and the second thing is, I would like to add a few things here. I mean, look, a great transformation has already happened. I mean, 3 billion people right now working from home, right? And it happened so seamlessly that probably if we would have made an ideal plan of doing this, we couldn't have come up with a better than this one, right? Most of the organizations are working from home. Most of our kids are getting classes from home and all those things, right? So all those people who were challenging the creative ideas of things going remote and people working from home and better engagement from employees working from home, or the productivity and stuff like this, they should wake up now, because I mean, it was the management layer or the leadership layer which was which was not believing it. And I have seen it in many organizations, even during the lockdown or when the lockdown started, when the trouble started, there were leaders in different organizations which were saying, no, but still we will lose the productivity and stuff. And we are seeing the early result of productivity as well. I mean, there are few areas where productivity has gone up. There are few areas where productivity has gone down, right? So
Yeah.
we need to work in the new normal. As far as HR is concerned, I think HR's role is enabler, right? I mean, we have to transform HR a lot from its traditional role of policies and stuff like this. And I can give you the example. I run an organization which is 700 people strong in Pakistan, and I don't have an HR manager. I don't have an HR manager. All my policies are in the bots, available to everybody. They can access 24/7. They have help available 24/7 through digital workforce or centers. Our managers, the first line managers, are the real HR managers. So we have to reimagine, right? The whole. So similarly, the people who will be close to the people on ground will be the real HR managers. While HR can work on the back end to make sure that this adoption is going fast, skill development is going fast, because once you come out of this, you will need quite, I mean, if you're changing your business model, you will need different skills. If you're changing your consumption model, you will need different kind of HR. So HR should focus on making sure that they move away from the old stuff which they are doing, and they start looking into the stuff which is coming after the COVID and start preparing the organization for that piece.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's the trend that we're seeing in organizations which are pretty much tech savvy and who are actually riding the digital wave, is that all these enabling technologies and enabling communities are now digital, exist in the digital form now. Rather than having physical HR persons, we now have, as you said, every manager is an HR. Every first line people manager is an HR manager. There's a question that has been put up here, and I see a lot of likes to it. And the question says, what do you think, what new avenues will be open for IT infrastructure after COVID lockdown? And what learning will we apply and will help us transform our day-to-day job? One thing's for sure, IT infrastructure and a physical infrastructure, I think, would be a thing of the past. There will be an accelerated need for everything in the cloud, which means that we will have infrastructure as a service. That would become the one of the key service changes that people will be looking for. All our computing power will be on the cloud. We don't be looking at physical servers in our data centers. So all of that needs to change and will have to change, because I can give you an example. This company, a customer of ours, was working and told us that there has been a downtime in one of their server rooms, and they have to go and physically check it, but that particular location is in a lockdown because of someone diagnosed with COVID in that locality. So here we are, having a challenge where we are not able to physically access those locations. So I see a complete shift from physical infrastructure to infrastructure in the cloud. I see a lot of opportunities and a lot of companies moving into that direction. Ghazanfar, you are more experienced in the infrastructure area. Your comments on that?
Right. I think there are a few things which are immediately happening. So we were not ready. Most of the organizations were not ready for work from home, right? So there are areas which came in quickly. Security came in quickly. People were not ready to manage thousands and hundreds and thousands of VPNs. People were not ready to have right security infrastructure to take care of this remote connectivity. People were not ready to manage infrastructure remotely, right? So, and we saw a few of the things which we thought that are things of the history are now coming back, and people are saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we want to do the stuff which we used to do 5 years ago again because it has become relevant," right? So, but the other piece, which is again, as we move in this crisis from one phase to other phase, the things will change very quickly. So right now it's a defense phase, right? So you have to make sure you are secure, you are able to run your operations, you are making sure your business continuity is there. Next phase will be the build and scale phase. and the build and scale with these kind of environments where there are long-term impact on supply chains, there are long-term impact on global mobility. You will not be able to get global consultants down here and all those things. The things will accelerate towards cloud, where you get things as a service, software as a service, functionality as a service, and all those things. And right now, I have two set of people coming to me. One set of people are saying, please make sure that I'm up and running. So those are the people who are still in the earlier phase of response. And then there are thought leaders which are saying, by the way, I'm okay on the up and running piece because I had it covered, or I'm okay with the limited functionality on up and running, but you have to accelerate my digital capability so that I can scale fast for the future, right? So there will be technologies which will be relevant in the first phase, and then there will be technologies and initiatives which will be relevant in the second phase. And I would be more interested in the second phase because that where the success will be, right? And that will be cloud, data, analytics, a lot of design piece and stuff like that, which will accelerate the things.
And it will all be as a service. So that's the key. People and organizations would not be going with their own infrastructure, but as a service from companies. Okay, before we move on, there's a couple of questions that have been kind of given more voting. So this question is, how fast will it impact organizational structures into three segments: full-time employees, automated processes, and on-demand gig employees? Well, we have to see the shift and the impact from a full-time or a contract or a on-the-demand employees. But one thing is for sure, that the process transformation has to happen, has already started actually. So you would be seeing organizational processes, at least, I haven't stepped foot in my office and I'm sure, Ghazanfar, that's the case with you as well. All your processes are automated, right from your finance, procurement, HR, everything is an automated process. We have tools, we have technologies which are catering to it, and we don't have to worry about it. But that is how other organizations will need to make sure that their processes are automated. So process automation will be one of the key challenges and the changes that is required for companies. When it comes to the shift between full-time and contract, I think we will see some shift, because initially collaboration with on-prem employees was expected to be higher. And what we've realized over the last 6 to 8 weeks, and it's too early at this point in time, that collaboration has not gone down with the virtual environment. It has gone down by a certain extent, but then we are saving out a lot of cost on infrastructure. So time is going to tell how the contracts, how the legal system is going to evolve in order to ensure that contract employees would be preferred over full-time employees. So it's a wait and see thing, but I definitely see a shift there. How much, I don't know.
Okay, so I would add just a couple of things. I think organizational structures which we know right now, they are anyways becoming irrelevant, and they will shift very, very fast moving from here. Because once you get into a transformational mode where you are dismantling the old big walls and creating the new horizons, at that time the old organizational structures become a liability. And I had a chance to see one of the Harvard professors earlier this year in January, and I asked this question. I said, okay, so what kind of organization structure we are looking in the future? Is this a flat organizations where you will not have chiefs of everything, right? You will have people who will be supervisors and labeled as a chief of whatever, but the job will not be well defined. It will come to you, everything will come to them by task based on the skills they have. So that's one thing. The old organizational structure, as we start rebuilding the new business model, will change. Employment will change the way we think today. I mean, this full-time employments and all those things, the first thing which happened in the fourth industrial revolution is that skill has become the new currency and degree has gone out, right? And right now, what organizations are telling all across the world, and whether it's your organization, my organization, Microsoft or Google's of the world, they're saying, thank you very much for your last 20 years of experience in service to IBM. But here are 5 skills which you need to have this year. If you don't have those skills, then the door will be opened and you will be kicked out. Whether you are a CEO, whether you are
Absolutely.
whatever level, right? So and the organization will say, okay, if our dependency for success is based on skills, then we will get the skills whatever way they are coming in. And guess what? I mean, most of these skills are not available in traditional employment mode. There are freelancers, there are very creative people who are willing to contribute based on their own terms. So there is a paradigm shift coming in the whole, employment strategies and things like those. The last piece, which is on process automation. Look, majority of the processes will be eaten by digital workforce. And when I say digital workforce, it's robots. We've already seen a lot of work is being taken care by the things like robotic process automation and stuff like this, right? There will be very minimum human intervention in that. Probably we will have a time where we will get the template for everything and we will start doing the robotic process automation very, very fast. So process automation will not be the discussion which we were having 5 years ago by mapping up a process and redesigning it according to this BPR playbook. It will be designed on experience. It will be digital. It will be straight through. It will be automated from digital workforce. So what we need to think is when we are thinking of these topics of workforce, organization structure, process automation, we have to throw out the old structures of thinking. So organization structure like past will not be relevant. Business
Totally
process
throw away.
Will not be relevant.
Throw away. Sorry, I'm just adding totally throw away. You can't be having a mix and match of the old and the new.
Employment contract of the past will not be relevant. So start looking into the future, which will be quite different. And then that's where the leadership comes in and starts playing, okay, I mean, if this is how the future is looking like, then how we enable that transformation of organization, whether we are sitting in sales, whether we are sitting at CEO position, whether we are sitting at HR position, whether we are sitting in operations or finance, how we are enabling that transformation to happen quickly. Because one thing is for sure, if you don't transform, you will become irrelevant. And if you become irrelevant, you will be out of the business.
Great. So we have to move on to our part of it. But before that, 3 minutes, let's have this one quick question. And I think it's a very interesting question. Digital transformation is not a layoff strategy. How you will convince your employees? So, Ghazanfar, how would you convince? I think Ghazanfar touched base on it right in his, the stuff he was saying a few minutes back. It's the skills. So as long as people are ready to change, adapt to the new skills, the more relevant skills, things will continue. Their employments can continue. However, if we see people, I mean, I'll give you an example here. I mean, we do a bit of a layoff every now and then, and those are considered as a hype in the market that things are going negative. What we do is we have to look at where our strategy wants us to be. What skills and abilities do we wish to see both in our leaders and in our employees? And if those skills are not adapted by those people, and we give them ample amount of time, if they're not, then we have to let them go, because we believe that they can live with their approach at some other organization, but not with ours. So that's the approach that I believe us and IBM, they take it in a similar fashion. But then there will be companies which, after a digital transformation, may see more of robotic input, robots coming into play. And I can give you an example. I was in Finland and I met this Uber driver. And I asked him, what do you do? He said, I've been roaming the world and now I've come and settled down. I said, okay, what do you do? He said, I am an engineer by profession. I said, great. And you're driving Uber? I said, yeah, that's my part-time job. So what do you do in real? He goes, I work for a warehouse. I said, okay. I said, how big is the warehouse? He goes that it's around 3 acres or something, 3 square acre miles. I don't remember the exactly, but it's a huge one. I was like, so how do you manage? He says, I'm the only one on the night shift. And I was like, what do you mean you're the only one on the night shift? It's a warehouse. You have to supply goods. And he goes like, there are robots that are picking stuff from the shelves, putting them into the distribution line. I am the one who only takes care of if there is a confusion or something falls down or there is a order which gets stuck because of the inclarity in the commands. And then he does the troubleshooting on it. So a huge warehouse being managed by individuals. In that case, if a Pakistani warehouse does adopt that technology, which I believe is very far ahead, far-fetched for now, but if they do adopt, we will see people being taken out of their jobs. But that doesn't mean that they are irrelevant. They can be relevant if they change their skills. So that is the point I think that Ghazanfar made as well. Skills are the ones that we need to focus on. Okay, so Ghazanfar, we talked about a lot of these questions and we'll take it up after our time, but a quick direction that we need to adopt is, okay, so we've seen the disruption, we've seen mega disruption actually. We've seen technology pace of digitization enhanced. We've seen the demand from the consumers coming in for change. We've identified a few industries like healthcare, government services, and manufacturing, retail, them being impacted. But now, what if you could pick up 3 key areas that they need to focus on in order to be relevant after COVID?
I think first and foremost is you have to focus on what's going on in your market, right? I mean, the thing is, the biggest trap we can all get is that we are safe. Because my industry is safe, my company is safe, I'm working for a big company, my business model is safe and stuff like this, right? So that will be the biggest trap right now. So right now, the first thing you need to do is you have to be very clear on your first focus, and your first focus should be what's happening around me, which means what's happening in my industry, how my customers are behaving, how my partners are behaving, how my supply line is behaving, what are the challenges and stuff like this. So first thing is realization. And that why I'm saying this, because that's where most of the people will miss the trick. Because people will have either a false sense of security or a sense of over risking themselves, right? So they will take actions. So in case you're thinking that you're safe, you will not take the right actions. In case you are thinking you are you have a very high exposure to risk, you might do actions which will in which you will end up losing your critical human resource or partners or relationships in the marketplace or whatever, right? So first thing is get that thing clear, right? And how do you do that? You have to invest in the data, right? So if you don't have the data inside, go buy from the people outside. Start looking into the quick wins in finding out the trends around what's happening. The second thing is around creativity, which means you have to come up with something with the frameworks which are already existing in case of design thinking and other frameworks, where you can rebuild or build something for what your customers are looking for in the future. And the third thing is speed, which is agility, which means that once you have decided which direction you have to go, then you can implement it fast. So first is get the reality check, be as close to data, as close to reality as you can. Don't switch to either sides, which means either get more insecure or feel more secure. Second thing is focus right now on creativity to think what will be relevant in future. And the third thing is move with a very fast speed, bring the agility, tear down the walls, set up things digitally, but don't stop. I mean, don't wait for things to go back to normal. Consider this, the situation you are working is the new normal, and start building the future now.
Absolutely. And as you said, all these areas are important and they need to have a deep focus. And at the same time, I just like to add a couple of things that integration of the functions, of all these functions within the organization, will play a key role. And now, within the organization and outside the organization. And when I say I talk it from an employee, from business to employee perspective, business to business perspective, and business to consumer perspective, all of the value chain has to be integrated. And that's one of the key ways to survive. So I think that is where the focus of the organizations need to be. Organizations will need to find out, and not only organizations, small businesses, retail businesses, they will need to find a way to enhance their customer outreach, because the customer is the bread and butter for them. So they will need to find out ways to enhance their reach to those customers and build that customer base either virtually or physically, but that has to increase. And one last thing that I like to add here is that the data security, the privacy, since everything is now going to be digital, security, privacy, and at the end of the day, ethics are going to be one of the key elements that organizations will need to take care of. Unless and until they're not able to do that, we will face a lot of violations, which we will face a lot of challenges and issues, which will be unprecedented as well. So I think that is the outer layer that will help in ensuring that the digital transformation becomes successful. A lot of organizations and countries at this point in time are not able to ride this wave because of the challenges they think they will have with respect to security, and Pakistan being one of them. So I think that will help. I have a question here, Ghazanfar.
Yeah.
Um, what is the outlook of a call center industry and especially digital marketing agency? So the two things, call center industry and digital marketing post COVID.
Well, there are a few things which come as a blessing in disguise too, right? I mean, there are countries who reacted very fast in terms of COVID response, and some of those countries which are operating in call center space, uh, they went for certain actions from the government side by locking down within hours their countries and stuff like that. This didn't give the time to those countries and the operations running in those countries to intimate their customer well in timely manner. So they have seen some setback on their global image and their risk perception, right? And this creates an opportunity for Pakistan to step up and go back and do this thing. And this call center business in the long run, as the more businesses will go digital, this will remain relevant. I think it's a great opportunity for Pakistani companies to remarket ourselves and go and tell the world that we operate in a rather smooth framework. And I think government should invest more in terms of infrastructure to make sure that more call centers can come up quickly and stuff like this. So I see it going in positive. Similarly, digital marketing, as the more people, if 3 billion people are working from home, right now they are doing more digital activity than they ever used to do, right? So, and right now the digital is the most relevant means. So you don't expect people to come out and see the billboards on the streets, right? You don't expect them to watch 35 channels at the same time. So it will be more digital, more digital, more digital. So both industries, these both areas, call center and digital, post-COVID, they have a good future. I think the thing is, which we need to figure out how to play the relevant game in both areas, right? So where would we fit as Pakistan in terms of the chain of the digital marketing activity, right? We don't have the platforms. That's unfortunate. So we have to work with existing platforms. We have to work with analytics around those. We have to work with bringing e-commerce together and do a lot of stuff there. And there will be a lot of local digital marketing opportunity which will come in. So look at the global market as well as local. So in my opinion, both have a very bright future post-COVID.
Yeah. This is a point where I have I like to add something more. We need to think of this post-COVID in two scenarios, in two perspectives. One is the Western perspective, and when I say the Western perspective, I mean the West because of their maturity in the digital journey. And then we need to see from a Pakistan perspective, which is a bit, behind on the digital journey. Except, of course, some certain industries are ahead or at least are at par with the global wave, but some are lagging far behind. Now, within the call center area, I see that we will see globally a lot of, automation and AI coming in as a change enabler, replacing a lot of humans when it comes to being at the call center. We'll see a lot of chatbots coming in. We'll see a lot of help desk being provided by those AI powered chatbots. So we'll see that. But in Pakistan, as I agree, as Ghazanfar said, those countries which are hard hit by COVID will have Pakistan as an opportunity to pick up on the businesses from those countries and build this industry here in the short run. And when I say short run, I see it at least for the next couple of years. Okay. Do you see Pakistani companies adopting a remote first strategy after all of this is over, or is it going to be business as usual? I think we will see a mix of both these approaches. I am sure that at least I would go back and see what has been the efficacy and the productivity of my people, working remotely. Now, based on that, we will do the assessment. We'll see, and we'll definitely see if I need those physical infrastructures in order to house my people, or how many do I need to be there. So it all will depend based on how we analyze it. Again, from industry to industry, from domain to domain, it may vary. So we'll look into it, and I think many of the companies will start looking into this dynamics and then build up a strategy around. But
Yeah, and
it's definitely not going to be business as usual.
Yeah, it's not. And look, I mean, right now we all went into the lockdown, right? But
Yes.
let's start thinking of how we will come back from the lockdown, right? So we might have gone suddenly into lockdown, but we will not come suddenly back with the full strength to our workplaces. So it will be gradual. You will have remote first in certain industries, not in the factories probably, but other industries where it's possible still to work remotely, where you will have 10 to 15% people coming back to the workplaces. Then you will have social distancing norms. You will have reduced workspace available. You will have reduced, you will have so many SOPs and procedures which will reduce the traffic into the buildings, which means we are looking at a good 6 months plus before we get all the 100% back into the workplaces, right? So where there is a possibility, yes, there will be a remote first, at least for a longer time, and then there will be a part of population which will remain remote for good. I mean, they will never come back to office because people will realize that their productivity was not affected, and it's better to. I mean, if they are productive at home, then let's provide something to them at home rather than spending that money on the real estate and other things. And we find other ways to engage with them in different things. But then there are industries which will be completely different, where you need people on the ground to do stuff, right? So there can't be one uniform answer. But
Yeah.
I would say that in certain industries, few people, I don't know what the percentage would be, will never come back to their 9 to 5 in office places. They will stay there for good, or those job roles will stay there for good, if I put it differently, right?
Yeah. I think we've come to the end of the time. Ali, how do you suggest that we move forward?
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of questions from the people. I think even it's an overwhelming response from a lot of people. I see more than 27 questions were raised by people and a lot of likes. So it's purely up to you. If you just want to take few more questions, we will move at the end of the session as you suggest.
Ali, I think it will be good if you can take some audio questions, because that will be, I
Yeah.
mean, if you promote one or two guys to panelists and they can ask the questions, then it will improve the engagement.
So I have opened it. I have shared in the chat box for all of the audience. So if somebody want to have an audio question, yeah. So we got one raise hand. You can just select it, and the person will be upgraded too. So let me put it there. So we got two requests. So we'll take three questions, guys. So as for yes, as for big.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep.
Yes.
Please
Yes,
go
Okay.
ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Haroon and Ghazanfar. It was a very wonderful discussion and very insightful thoughts you people have shared it out. But my question is around the cybersecurity and the upcoming privacy personal data protection bill. As this digital transformation will open many challenges regarding the cybersecurity, like access management, remote working, people are working remotely, so they might have some access management challenges, privilege access management challenges. And as you people had mentioned about the digitalization and online business adoption from many new companies and many regular companies, so how they protect the customer information when this bill will take effect in next couple of months. So because security is not that cheap and they have to maintain their customer information very accurately, and their privacy condition requirements are very high. So how you think that these small businesses will, cope up with these security challenges?
So Harun, you want to go first?
Well, I think we discussed the fact that, sorry, I actually wrote an answer around it. Security, as I said, security, data security, individual and data privacy, and also our ethics are going to be the biggest ones that will be challenged. And the government has to implement a regulation, and and I think that is in process, where strong laws are put into place and coupled with a strong enforcement agency around it. So that is the only way if we tend to, create an environment where security and privacy are maintained. Secondly, um, we will see a lot of services around security coming in, and you will see that there will be, for example, we've seen these marketplaces which have this embedded security as a service as part of their offers. So we will see a lot of these approaches where security would be managed and would be certified as a secure service before we tend to do any transaction with them. So all of this is into consideration. I think banking sector has its own strong regulations around it. We will see a lot coming in the e-commerce area as well, and we'll see companies adopting these different regulations and different SLAs and services around it, so that they are able to connect their own employees as well within their own ecosystem.
So, in my opinion, a couple of things. As for sub, one is the access and all those things. Those will be managed through access control systems and stuff like this. The question about data is very, very relevant. The law, which is there as a draft on IT ministry's website, misses a lot of points, right? And I think a lot of feedback is going to them that what needs to be added. We have multiple laws on global scale which are available. European GDPR is one example where they have defined the responsibilities of keeping the data safe very, very clearly, that how processes will happen, will handle it, how collector will handle it and stuff like this. So multiple things. Obviously, your question is absolutely right that small businesses will not have this capability to comply with all the regulations, because in 90% of the cases they won't even understand the regulation, right? But they will come once it becomes digital, or if they go to digital platform where they're collecting the data, uh, they have to come to technology companies. And that's where I think one is the global players. They have built their products, and they are building their products in future, which are compliant to the global regulations like GDPR. And one of the area where I struggle a lot with my startups in Pakistan is when they're building something, they're building with a local industry with very few regulation checks inbuilt in the product, in the products. So, so we on the technology side, as far as our technology industry locally is concerned, they have to be a bit future looking in building those global compliance into their products right now, so that tomorrow when this law comes in, they don't need to go through the complete redesign of their project, their product itself or services itself, right? So very, very good question. I think law will need a lot of changes once it's implemented. It will take a good time for everybody to understand the responsibility. There has to be a lot of parallel education which needs to go. Otherwise, it will be unjust to apply such a law especially to SME sector. And then the technology industry has to come back and give this feedback to the government at what is practical in our country, because we are not sitting in Europe where everything is clearly defined, or even once the law is implemented, then our legal system is that fast that those things can be implemented.
Great. So I think we'll take the last audio question from Farooq Ahmed, and then we'll be going to end the session. So Farooq Ahmed, please, you can have your question.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Haroon and Ghazanfar, for this wonderful discussion. I think it is really important for everyone in Pakistan to understand how things will be shaping up and what this digital transformation is going to bring about. By the way, I'm CEO of Careers 360, which is a job portal and also a professional networking platform. My question is around basically the post-COVID world. Basically, we're talking about digital transformation, and one of the main drivers of that is AI and machine learning. So I think if you look at the statistics in the Western world, they are already anticipating probably the unemployment rate probably is going to be in double digits. And I think Pakistan, if you look at Pakistan, we already probably in double digits already there, a pre-COVID world. And with all this digital transformation, AI and machine learning bringing in, there'll be less and less requirement for people to be getting involved. So what kind of world do you see after all this digital transformation happen? Do you see maybe still a lot of, would we be able to have enough jobs for everyone to be employed, or would there be a lot of layoffs, or would there, people will struggle to find employment?
Well, I think let's go back to pre-COVID scenario. I mean, the things which we were discussing in December, right? So, or in January. So in January, there is a lot of stuff which has come out, whether you take World Economic Forum report, whether you take McKinsey report. There is a report done by IBM with MIT as well. And all of those reports were saying that, yes, there will be a huge loss of jobs because of the fourth industrial revolution coming out of AI, robotics, and all these technologies. But there will be a lot of new jobs which will be created because of the same technology revolutions, right? And there was a consensus, whether you take McKinsey report or World Economic Forum report, is the number of jobs created through fourth industrial revolution will always be higher than the number of jobs lost by it. And by the way, this is not something very hypothetical. This has happened in earlier industrial revolutions as well, right? So everybody thought that once we move to the factories, we will need less workers. But guess what? We got then the blue collar workers and the white collar workers, and that's why IBM came up with the new terminology called new collar workers. Now, if you see, the blue collar workers are normally they don't have the 14 years, 16 years of education. They do the stuff with hands, right? And then we have these babus like us who are 14 years, 16 years degree holders and going to the best of schools and coming out in a factory model and then joining the things. And but we saw what was happening in fourth industrial revolution. There is a rise of new collar workers. These are the people who don't have necessarily 16 years or 14 years of degrees, but they have the right skills. So where the investment should go is in getting those skills which can come through micro learning platforms. So you don't need to invest 5 years or 10 years to get the skill. You can have, and you have to be very practical about it, how you want to go do it. Learn, apply, learn, apply, learn, apply, because when you go for the global interviews or freelance work or whatever contribution you want to make, people will not ask you what's written on the certification or what's written on your CV. They will ask you a very simple question: what can you do for us? And if you can successfully demonstrate that whatever you can do for them, so whether you are sitting in Pakistan, whether you are sitting in US, whether you are sitting in Timbuktu or a part of Africa, it will not matter. Post-COVID, what I have seen, and Haroon, you can also share the experience of your own center, because we run a center here in Pakistan. I started losing my 95% attrition was foreign attrition. And these were people, very junior level people from the experience point of view in terms of their career, but having very good skills and publishing those skills in good communities and stuff, going to mature markets without immigration. So I lost people to the top organizations in Europe. I lost people to top organizations in very, good economies in Asia, Australia, Canada, and these jobs were coming like, I mean, a guy was working on, let's say, $100,000, $1,000 here, and he was getting an offer of $20,000, and with working visa and everything, with a flight ticket and everything, because those skills were in demand. Same trend will continue. We will have an impact of recession where jobs will go down, but this skill transformation, as people will build the new business models and new things fast, this will accelerate. So I think what we should focus as industry, what we should focus as economy, what we should focus as the government is to bring these platforms where we can create these skills quickly merged with actual practical knowledge of how things are done. So it should be four weeks course with 3 weeks or 2 weeks of internship, engagement in a project or something like this, so that after 12 weeks or 18 weeks, a person can go to a global organization and say, I can deliver this to you and this is what I can do. So I think that's where the future is. It will be more jobs. It will be well-paid jobs. It will be in different industries, but it will be for sure better than what we've seen in the past and what we're seeing right now.
And I won't repeat. I think I fully agree with what Ghazanfar has said. I'll just add on top of it that it won't be easy. So that is one thing for sure, that we have to get out of our comfort zone. We'll have to reskill ourselves. We'll have to reskill from either a domain perspective, a technical perspective, or even from an industry perspective. So that reskilling will be all dependent on how much I am flexible to do it and how agile I am to adapt those new skills. And I agree, micro certifications are what people are pursuing. Even I'm doing it. And I saw Ghazanfar lately, a post from Ghazanfar on LinkedIn. I mean, does it mean that he is still, learning? Of course he is learning. We all keep on learning. I mean, I get to do a certification every 1 month or 2 months. And why is that? Because we need to keep ourselves updated, not in what we are good at, but at what we are not good at. And that is what helps us move from our current role to a new role. And this is where I think the industry and the individuals will need to adapt. The change adaptation may be quick in the West because the realization, and they've gone through it a lot, and it may be difficult here in Pakistan, but the realization has to come. And if that doesn't come, then God bless us. Great. Thank you very much, Farooq, for your question. And Ali, over
Wow.
to you.
I think it's to me, honestly, I conducted so many webinars and so many events, but I think this is far better. I'm getting so many WhatsApp messages, and myself even being a bit emotional, that I was even feeling a bit of goosebumps because the information was so relevant, so practical. I think thank you so much for a wonderful conversation. Before I end, I just want to speak a little bit to the audience. Guys, see, this was definitely a wonderful conversation. We could see the chat box as well. We see a lot of questions. Of course, we're not able to answer all of them, but I think if I just calculate, more than 20 people who liked the questions were addressed. So questions are always better than answers. We are happy that you put a lot of questions. It was very interactive. But the challenges, again, the challenges. If we do not take certain actions, this actionable dialogue will become another source of information which you will forget within 7 days of time. So my humble suggestion to all of you would be, please watch the video. We're gonna share the video link with you. Of course, I will watch again. Please watch the video and share the takeaway. One takeaway. What is one thing, as Haroon mentioned, as Ghazanfar mentioned, that skill transformation. So just put yourself in one drawing. What is the one thing you're gonna learn? Just draw it, because drawing increase your memory more than 60%. My humble suggestion would be, just make a simple drawing. We'll send you the drawing video as well to help you how to draw. If you're not able to draw like me, I'm a very bad in drawing. So you can draw something and we will share it on the LinkedIn so that other would get learning as well. That is something reinforcement that will transform this information into actions. The actions which will give you better job, which will give you better business and quality of life. With that, I'm very thankful to Haroon. Thank you so much for a wonderful conversation, and I've really felt it. It's a fireside side because you guys were smiling and laughing and talking. I think that was purely a virtual fireside. Thank you so much, Haroon, for your kind time. People loved your presence. And thank you, Ghazanfar. Always very relevant, very crisp. I think we got a very good response. Thank you so much for your time, Ghazanfar, for being kind and being available. All right. So with
Thank
that,
you. Thank you, Ali.
and with that, I would thank all of the participants for being part of it. And I see that attendance was sustained throughout the webinar. With that, we'll close it and we'll share the recording with you. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.